Good morning. It's Friday, July 17th. We are here at the Frazier Park Library together with Sergeant Dustin Downey from the Frazier Park Sheriff's Substation. We had yesterday kind of a lot of law enforcement activity going on in Frazier Park, even involving a helicopter and special units from the Sheriff's Office. And it created kind of a scare here in the community. So what was going on?
Okay, thank you, Gunnar. Again, my name is Sergeant Downey with the Frazier Park Substation. You're right, we did have quite a bit of law enforcement activity, not only yesterday, but this week. And so I'm gonna kind of give all the details and bring everybody up to speed on what transpired. This investigation actually began last Sunday on July 12th at approximately 12:20 p.m. in the afternoon in the 4100 block of Roosevelt Trail. A Hispanic male began knocking on the door of a residence. The subject was injured. He appeared to have been in some sort of fight with somebody. He was scared. He thought that somebody was maybe after him. He didn't speak any English. He spoke only Spanish. The residents there only spoke English, so they had a hard time communicating with him. He somehow was able to indicate that people might have been after him with guns, and he needed either a ride out of town or to borrow their car or something along those lines. Those people ended up calling the sheriff's office, and a deputy arrived on scene and made contact with this subject. His name is Fernando Garcia Lopez. He's 34 years old, and he was from Reedley, California. The deputy that contacted him conducted a search of his person, and in his waistband he located a loaded .380 caliber pistol. A further search of him, the deputy located a baggie of methamphetamine on his person, and he was also determined to be under the influence of methamphetamine. So based on that, he was arrested on several charges, some felonies and some misdemeanors, all related to the gun and the narcotics and being under the influence. It was believed, though, that based on the circumstances and location where this subject was located, that he might be tied to a marijuana grow operation up in the mountains. So at that point, our narcotics section of our Special Investigations Division got involved in the investigation, and they began investigating all week long whether or not there was a marijuana grow in the area. Based on their investigation, they were able to obtain a search warrant for a residence and a large property owned at the residence in the 400 block of Lameda Circle. Yesterday at approximately, on Thursday, July 16th, at approximately 10:30, narcotics officers from 3 of our narcotics units in our Special Investigation Division, the Major Violators Unit, our CalMet Unit, and our HIDA Unit. They descended on the area and served that search warrant on that location of the property and the residence. They were also assisted by our sheriff's helicopter, which was the reason for the helicopter circling around that area. While they were searching the property, which included the side of a mountain, they found several marijuana grows up and down the mountain. As they were making their way up the mountain to these marijuana plots, basically, they never located any suspects. However, they could hear suspects up the mountain above them whistling to each other, indicating to each other that basically law enforcement was there. Those suspects were able to flee up the mountain without ever being located. And it's my belief that based on that, those suspects and the investigation are at least 2 males, Hispanic, and we have no other description on them. During the service of that search warrant, the officers were able to eradicate just under 3,400 marijuana plants in various sizes and maturity. They also recovered approximately 60 pounds of processed marijuana, and they seized a honey oil device to include butane, and they also located a loaded shotgun and a loaded pistol. During this incident, I put out a Ready Kern alert notifying the public, mainly in the Frazier Park area, that if any Hispanic males were suspiciously seen in the area, to call law enforcement. I put out that Ready Kern alert on the belief that eventually the suspects that were able to get away, once law enforcement left the area and things calmed down, they would come down off the mountain, they would end up in the community somewhere and either calling for a ride or trying to use somebody's phone to call for a ride and get picked up and taken out of the area. So that was the basis of the Ready Kern alert. The Ready Kern alert was very, I'll say, very non-descriptive, because we don't know how many suspects. We didn't have an age on them. We didn't have any type of physical or clothing description. So I had to keep the Ready Kern alert very, very non-descriptive. But we do believe that they were at least 2 Hispanic males, and that was the basis for that. I don't believe that the community is in any kind of danger from these suspects. I've been involved in these kind of investigations for several years, and typically once these marijuana grows are raided, if the suspects get away, they do end up down in the community closest to them, just trying to get out of the area. So I don't believe there's any danger to the community from these suspects. The guns that we seized, we believe were their guns, so we have no information that they would be armed. We just believe that they would be trying to get out of the area. And so there was a possibility that these suspects could end up walking around in the streets of Frazier Park while they either wait for a ride or try to use a phone to call for a ride.
Did you make any arrests? There were kind of rumors this morning, as usual, that you made any arrests.
No, we have not made any additional arrests besides the initial one last Sunday on Fernando Garcia Lopez.
And the plants you said you found and terminated 3,400 plants?
Just under. It was 3,390.
They belong to the property of the house for which you had a search warrant.
Yes, yes. The house and property, it was several acres, was owned by the same, on the same property that the house was on.
And this is one of the houses that's really isolated or far away from the nearest house in the southwestern corner of Frazier Park, isn't it?
That's correct. It's very isolated. It had there was a winding road that went up to it. You can't even see the house as you're going up the road until you get right up to it. And several winds down the road, there was a lock gate preventing cars from getting up there. So.
And what is with the property owner? I would assume that you also investigated the property owner of the house, and the property may or may he not be involved in these activities, or did he rent it out? Do you have any information about that?
We did contact the property owner, who lives in LA and has leased the property out. The detectives that were handling the investigation from our Special Investigations Division, they contacted the property owner. I don't have the details of what they learned, but I do know that the property owner does live in LA, and the property had been leased by somebody.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So basically the situation is over, and during the search for these unknown number of suspects. You had also a lot of additional officers here in town, just in case, or to ensure the safety of the community?
We had our normal staffing of deputies on duty. They weren't involved in the actual investigation because that was completely handled by our narcotics officers from our Special Investigations Division. But as you can imagine, once I put out the Ready Kern alert, the deputies on duty, they were responding to lots of calls for service of what people believed to be suspicious-looking Hispanic males. And by no means was that my intent for the community to call the sheriff's office and report every Hispanic male. It wasn't my intent by any means. I probably could have worded the Ready Kern alert a little bit better to try to prevent some of those extra calls.
How many calls did you have yesterday?
I'm not sure how many, but there were several.
Okay.
And several people came to the substation to report seeing Hispanic males.
Okay. Good. So community is safe. 3,400 or so marijuana plants have been eradicated, and probably one of the drug houses here in Frazier Park has been closed, at least for a foreseeable time.
Yep,
In that regards, it's kind of a successful operation, isn't it?
Yeah, so it was successful in the sense that, yes, a marijuana grow operation has been eradicated. Like I said, almost 3,400 plants, approximately 60 pounds of marijuana. One suspect in custody on weapons and drug charges that we believe was tied to this marijuana grow. Unknown amount of suspects did get away. However, we did seize a couple guns. And so in that sense, it was a successful operation. The community's safe. I have no reason to believe that there's any danger to the community as a result of this marijuana grow that took place.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sergeant Downey.
You're welcome.
So we are now